Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the conversation with our friend, Professor Javier Garcia Martinez, on rethinking the practice of chemistry. This will be an introduction to IUPAC guiding principle of responsible chemistry. I will really welcome all of you that will participate to this event as a president of the European Chemical Society. I really would like to thank you for joining this meeting across Europe, and I hope also from all other parts of the world. Let me tell you a few words about what is EuChemS. EuChemS, as the name, is the European Chemical Society, and is aimed to speak with a unique voice, above all with an unbiased European voice, to more than 140,000 active members that are coming from 48 member organizations representing 35 European countries. So, as you can see, it's a very large network who represents several, mostly part of Europe. And what is the task of this organization? Well, of course, we have several tasks. The first is related to scientific diffusion of the European culture. We do this with several different ways, above all, of course, with a scientific conference in which people from several parts of Europe work into their division or into our international congress that happen every 2 years, and exchange the idea of the most updated results of the European and not only European research. And of course, this is very important because we talk without borders, and this is why our voice is so strong, because it's not unbiased by political issue. Of course, we also work a lot with recognition of the excellence of our network, of course, with several awards of pride. Some of them are related to the young chemistry, others are recognition of excellence, like the gold medal for the very recognized scientists. Other one recognize places in Europe where the chemistry started or have great relevance in the study of chemistry. But of course, we work also only on the relationship between science and policy, actively working with the European Parliament, building event in which we talk with people coming from from laboratory, from industry, from academia, of course, and try to find common way to see the problems that are more hardly to be solved. And so we try to send our message to the European Commission and to the Parliament, so they can work as legislator, but with the grounded on science information coming from severe research in the field. And why EuChemS is so close to the theme of responsibility that is the object of this conversation with Javier. Of course, because responsibility is one of the main our goal, because it's important, of course, to reach excellence in science, but excellence has to be conjugated always with ethics, with a good use of our funding, with inclusion, with sustainability. And this is what EuChemS is doing by several years and through several different initiatives. If I can have the next slides, is just to give you some example of what the EuChemS is doing in the, to support this campaign that the IUPAC is doing regarding the principle of responsible chemistry. The last event that we have done has been at the Parliament in Brussels with an event on PFAS that we know is one of the most challenging topics related to the use of this chemist so relevant compound, and the way it can be still used, the way it can be not anymore used but replaced by other molecules that are still effective but not so dangerous. And also we have done the event on, always in conjunction with IUPAC on general breakfast for women. The name of this event is Many Voices, One Science, and was linked exactly to the role of women in responsible chemistry, because we feel that it's really important the way we teach, the way we form people to act as responsible chemistry and to transfer to the society the results of our finding. And the last thing that I would like to mention is the fact that EuChemS has prepared with his task force the EuChemS periodic table of elements that can you see in the lower part of our slide. It's a quite strange periodic table. It's correct from the point of view of chemistry, of course, but it's not the normal one with lines and columns, but each part is colored differently and is referred to several topics in the sense that it's related to abundancy. So how most big is large is the area covered by one color. That means that this element is present in large quantity, but we can recognize the elements that are scarce in our planet and link this scarcity to the environment in which this element has been renewed, in the sense that you see that comes sometimes from places where the war is still acting and where it's mostly used. So several ways to tell our members, but not only our members, but to the society, that we have to look very much forward and to find for excellence, fight for truth in science, but always be in favor of the ethical attitude of chemistry toward the society. So with this introduction that I hope will be clarified why EuChemS is so close to EuPac in this campaign, and asking again Javier, because he has been the president of EuPac, now is the past president, but he's also the chair of our next meeting in Antwerp. So really these two organizations work together on the main topics of chemistry for now and for ensuring a better future to all of us. And now I will give the ground to Xavier to start this conversation with us. Thank you, Xavier. Please, the stage is yours.
Grazie mille, Angela. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. It's really a pleasure, as you said, to work together with EuChemS. I'm going to start now showing my slides and give you the presentation. Hopefully you can now see my slides. Okay. So thank you again. Thank you for the opportunity. Welcome everybody to this EuChemS webinar. I think this is a critical time to rethink chemistry, to rethink the practice of chemistry. On the one hand, we are facing significant environmental challenges that demand urgent and innovative solutions. And on the other, it is becoming increasingly difficult to meet the needs and expectations of a growing population. And at the same time, the field itself, chemistry, is confronted with its own pressures like disrupted supply chain, high energy cost, and rising resource constraints. The best way I had to present you with this big challenge is with this figure here from the Green and Sustainable Chemistry Framework Manual from the United Nations Environment Program, where we can see the challenge we have in front of us, how big it is. At the beginning of the 20th century, we were already extracting 7 billion tons of materials from Earth. Now we are at 92 billion tons. And the challenge is not to keep extracting more into the future, to keep at this level, but at the same time, providing material wealth, resources, materials for a growing population. So United Nations is expecting that we more than double the economic output to make sure that this growing population can benefit from our standards of living. The chemistry industry itself is expected to also double in a few years. You can see the numbers here from 3.47 trillion euros in 2017 to more than 6 trillion euros by 2030. So this is doubling the size of our industry. And we cannot do that with the same impact we are having on the environment. So we need to get more effective in order to keep growing the industry, to keep providing materials, energy, goods for growing population, where our impact on the environment at least is not growing. And it's not just the increase in the size of the industry, it's also how it's going to change. A significant increase of the weight of China, that's going to be almost half of all the chemistry in enterprise by 2030, and a significant reduction of the role of Europe. I very recently wrote an editorial for Angewandte Chemie. Here you have the link, where I analyze this moment in terms of this big transformation where China is having a bigger and bigger uh, share of the chemistry enterprise. It's the major investor in the chemistry industry, but also it's spending more than a quarter actually now of the money that goes in chemistry R&D. But probably the most difficult challenge that we have in front of us for the next decades is to not only keep growing, going from 6 trillion euros now into more than 150 trillion euros by 2050, but at the same time, completely decarbonizing our economy. This is a monumental challenge. Many people would say that that's just impossible, but this is the challenge we have in front of us. This is what United Nations is proposing in this framework manual on green chemistry. And a few years ago, I wrote another review, another perspective for Angewandte. And in that case, what I was saying is that the biggest challenge for chemistry in the coming years is precisely this, is to decouple economic growth from environmental impact. This is not science fiction. Some countries have been able to already decouple economic growth from CO2 emissions. And here there are many examples of countries that have been able to increase in average incomes per person. This is the example of Ireland, very remarkable, more than 40%. while they are reducing very significantly the emissions, again, of CO2 per person. It's not every country, but this is the trajectory. Many countries, especially in developed economies, are able to grow and at the same time reducing the CO2 emissions per capita. In that paper that I mentioned to you that I published a few years ago in Angewandte Chemie, I already was providing some data about this. You can see here how we are now able to produce more economic wealth, more GDP per unit of energy as times go by. And that's because we are reducing the energy that is coming from oil sources. We are producing more and more of our electricity from renewable sources. And this is because of policies, but also because of technology. You see the price of crystalline silicon PV cells going down in a very, very significant manner, almost to zero now. So producing green electricity now is not a matter of money, it's a matter of will. As I said before, technology plays a big role in making this challenge a reality, decoupling economic growth from environmental impact. And every year at IUPAC, we highlight 10 technologies that we believe are going to have a significant impact in this big transformation. So we invite everybody, every person around the world is invited to submit a nomination, a technology that he or she thinks is going to transform the chemical industry, and a panel of experts select these 10 technologies, and we write every year an article to precisely present how emerging technologies in chemistry can help to build a better world, and we go into the details of explaining how these technologies can achieve that. And of course, that's what chemistry does, and does it very well. So in every journal, in every paper, in every conference, we are presenting how chemistry from its beginning has been contributing to create the material um, wealth and the well-being that we all experience. And there is very little doubt that uh, chemistry can help. The question now is how it should. And this is the kind of conversation I want to have with you now. Not so much about whether chemistry can help to decouple economic growth from environmental impact, but how should do it? Green chemistry has been a fantastic way of giving the community a mission. We have 12 principles that has been a very effective way to give the community a challenge on how we can invent chemistry that is not harming the environment. And this has been so successful that now we have centers of excellence, journals, research grants, courses, summer schools, uh, international conferences, and also textbooks devoted to green chemistry. And this is now part of how or what we are. And of course, this is the first rule: do not harm. This is green chemistry at harm, at heart. The bare minimum that we should ask for any responsible chemist is using chemistry in a way that do not harm the environment or other people. But that's probably not enough. And that's why the community in the last few years has been developing different materials, different declarations, different documents to go beyond not harming to actually behaving in a responsible manner, which of course involve many other challenges. This is the Hague ethical guidelines with things that goes beyond sustainability. Of course, sustainability is part of the equation, but also safety and security, awareness and engagement, accountability, very important, the free exchange of information and scientific knowledge, education, to oversight to ensure that we are actually complying with these guidelines, and ethics, as Angela was saying at the beginning, we need to always behave under an ethical framework. The American Chemical Society has also made a very significant effort in this direction, and I highly recommend the Global Chemist Code of Ethics from ACS and this beautiful little book, but very useful, Responsible Conduct in Chemistry, Research and Practice, and Global Perspective, a really nice reading on this issue of responsible chemistry. And the Royal Society of Chemistry is doing a wonderful work on responsible chemistry from many different angles. It's publishing these beautiful reports on different topics. Of course, I highly recommend the RC Guide to Ethics, extremely useful. I want to congratulate the RRC also because all its efforts around diversity, not only guidelines, but also data, extremely important. We need to measure if we want to change. And very recently, the RRC has published its own sustainability strategy to 2030, the deadline that we gave us ourselves for the SDGs. This is the sustainability strategy, but you actually read this document, as you can see, of course, talks about sustainable chemistry, practices, processes, and products, extremely important. The kind of things that you will see in the 12 principles of green chemistry, but it goes beyond that. In this sustainability strategy, you also see living our values, doing chemistry differently. We are going to be talking a lot about that, and chemistry for the world. You see, the whole community, it's now in this big mission of going beyond green chemistry. Of course, green chemistry is something we all should do, but we should be doing better than that. I also want to congratulate EuChemS, who very early on started to work on ethical and social implications of chemistry. And here, my good friend and former EuChemS president, Pilar Goya, had a major role. And again, I want to recognize that. The content of this course were amazing, and you can see here on the contents things like sustainability, of course, but also chemistry and values, responsibility again, risk, uncertainty, and precaution, so important, science governance, technology assessment, and science communication. So what I'm trying to tell you is that pretty much everybody within the chemistry community has been working in the last few years to create this framework. So we invite our community to engage in a conversation about what practicing chemistry in a responsible manner really means. Also, the Nobel Foundation and the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences it was very keen, is very keen on this topic, and last year organized a Nobel Symposium on Chemistry for Sustainability. A bunch of us were invited to Stockholm to think about the future of sustainable chemistry. But beyond that, we were working for several months on what we call the Stockholm Declaration, these 5 points and a call to action. So, of course, these 5 points are a lot about sustainable chemistry, but chemistry for the future again goes beyond green chemistry and include things like uh, responsible chemistry. You can read it here, high quality research, the free exchange of information, education, and also inviting everybody to be part of this exercise. And that's why we, of course, signed the ones that were present in Stockholm. We signed this declaration, but also we are inviting everybody to endorse this declaration, to go to this website, stockholmdeclaration.org, and close to 2,000 people and organizations already endorsed this Stockholm Declaration. So at IUPAC, we are also, of course, it couldn't be otherwise, uh, truly committed to this mission. Now we have this Committee on Ethics, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which at its core, what it's doing is ensuring that we, IUPAC, but everybody promotes the values that are stated in our strategic plan. And it's a wonderful committee because it's not only discussing things around ethics or diversity, but actually creating very useful documents. A few years ago, I talked to some colleagues and I challenged the community within IUPAC to create some guiding principles for the responsible practice of chemistry. I want to recognize first my good friends, Mark Sisa, former IUPAC president, and my good friend Mary Garson, the current president of IUPAC, who were the chairs of this IUPAC project. Also, all the members who are representing different branches of chemistry, different backgrounds. And it was a wonderful experience to go through all the conversations, the exchange of emails, the Zoom calls where we were able to put together these 8 guiding principles of responsible chemistry. I invite all of you to go to our website and to click on that icon when you can learn more about these 8 principles of responsible chemistry. We created this infographic. You can go to the QR and download it, but there is a very short description of each one of these 8 guiding principles. Again, you can use the QR to download it. Everything here, of course, is open accessed. You can also download so many documents that we prepare for going into the detail of each one of these 8 guiding principles. This is the full document, and again, it's open access. We're free to download it. The people who were involved in creating these documents. First guiding principle, responsible innovation, with an overview of what it's about, with some examples, the Leblanc process, the Solvay process. I mean, this is the kind of things we teach our students. The Haber-Bosch process, what the synthesis of ammonia means for the world. Refrigerants, which now poses some challenges to the community. We also have this guiding future action, providing a framework of how this is now evolving, and extremely useful, these questions to guide discussion and references. So if there are educators here or anybody listening or watching this webinar later, I invite you to go through this document and explore each one of these 8 guiding principles and maybe use it with your colleagues or maybe in the classroom to discuss how we can create a more responsible chemistry community. This is the launch of these guiding principles. We try to make a big splash out of that. My good friend Peter Mahaffey, who was behind that presentation, and our former president, Professor Hutkainen. This is during our General Assembly in Kuala Lumpur, launching and presenting this guiding principle. It has been a very important effort for IUPAC. I want to thank Chemistry World and all the media outlets that have been helping us to spread the word. And again, I asking all of you to first read and embrace these guiding principles, but also to help us communicate this with the rest of the community. We are making a significant effort to let people know about these guiding principles, to raise awareness about the importance of responsible chemistry. And with, again, my good friend and colleague Peter Mahaffey, we wrote this invited article for the Journal of Chemical Education with this very provocative title, From What Chemistry Can Do to What Chemists Should Do. And again, it's not up to us, it's not up to IUPAC to tell what chemistry should do, but it's up to everybody to have this conversation. It's extremely important, as I was saying at the beginning, that we rethink what practicing chemistry really means. This is a key message that I want to make clear. Nothing of what I said or I will be saying is written in stone. These guiding principles, it's the result of a lot of discussion with a lot of people beyond the IUPAC task force. We consulted with a lot of people, but we are this is mainly an invitation for everybody to have a conversation about what responsible chemistry means. These 8 guiding principles, I believe, are useful, but they are not definitive. And it is, again, an invitation to have a conversation. And at the end of this webinar, we will have an opportunity to discuss the guiding principles of responsible chemistry in general. IUPAC is, again, very committed to the responsible practice of chemistry. And these guiding principles is not the first thing we do in this respect. Of course, since 2019, we launched, as Angela was mentioning, the Global Women Breakfast, extremely successful initiative like Laura McConnell and Mary Garson launched during our 100th anniversary. And now thousands of people are joining this breakfast coinciding with the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Thank you so much again, EuChemS, for hosting the Global Women Breakfast this year under the theme of responsible chemistry. It was wonderful to have the opportunity to say a few words at the beginning of this webinar. Another thing that we are doing at IUPAC now with the International Younger Chemist Network, IYCM, is the global conversation on sustainability. So every year on the International Day on Sustainability, we organize this global conversation. Again, it's an invitation to have a conversation. I hope you see the common theme here. And again, this is very different and a particularly nice initiative because it's an invitation to people to talk about sustainable chemistry, but not with a global perspective, but with a community perspective. So what we want is people to talk about chemistry from a very community-based perspective. So how chemistry is affecting your own life, the life of your family, the life of your lab or your factory, wherever you are working. And it gives a very different perspective when you talk about responsible chemistry from the community point of view. We at IUPAC are also extremely committed to empowering early career scientists. Probably the biggest thing we have done in the last few years around this idea of empowering early career scientists has been the incorporation of the International Younger Chemist Network within the structure of IUPAC. And this is a wonderful group of early career scientists who are really energized and bringing a lot of passion and activities to IUPAC. We also recognize every year the best and the brightest among early career scientists with the IUPAC Solvay International Award for Young Chemists, which is a wonderful and highly prestigious award. And I want to recognize Solvay for supporting these early career scientists now for a number of years. And also an initiative that maybe you are not aware of, but which is really nice, which is Chem Voices. And this is an invitation to any early career scientist to record a video and tell us how he or she feels about chemistry, maybe even discussing his or her research, asking for a job opportunity. Chem Voices is a window to the concerns and aspirations of the next generations of chemists, and also very happy that IUPAC is hosting this online community and invites all the early career scientists again to share their views, expectations, and concerns with the global chemistry community. Just to finalize, I want to thank everybody who has been involved in developing the IUPAC guiding principles of responsible chemistry, very especially my good friends and colleagues, Mark Sisa and Mary Garson, of course, Peter Mahaffey and his team at the King Center for Visualization in Science for helping us with a lot of the visuals and the materials, and the current chair of our Committee on Ethics, Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, Rihanna Sidat. I invite all of you to visit the IUPAC website and to follow us on social media. And very importantly, to join us this summer in Amter for the 10th EuChemS Chemistry Congress. It's going to be very special because we will be celebrating the 20th anniversary of European Chemistry Congresses. We started in Budapest exactly 20 years ago, and now the European chemistry community will gather again, this time in Amsterdam, Belgium, to celebrate what we have been doing for the last 20 years. And very importantly, as couldn't be otherwise, there will be a whole thematic session devoted to responsible chemistry. So I hope that this conversation will continue in Amsterdam this July. As I said before, nothing is written in stone. These guiding principles and everything I said is just an excuse to have a conversation. So now I will stop and we will start what I hope is going to be an inspiring and engaging conversation. Thank you, all of you for your attention.
Okay. Thank you very much, Javier. This was really interesting. I have some question for you, but maybe it's better if we can read some comment on the web.
Yes,
Can we do this?
I'm joining. Yeah. So we did receive a few questions, and perhaps we start with question or perhaps better comment from the author of the Good Chemistry course, Jan Mellich, who says the following. Thank you for the mention. I would like to highlight that the course is insufficient for a real responsible chemistry approach, because the most important skill, this course performance, is not properly facilitated in an online course. Meanwhile, I have elaborated a more practical framework, especially in view of green transition efforts. So I don't know, Javier, would you like to comment anything, or perhaps
I couldn't
Jan?
agree more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And actually, what we are doing now at IUPAC is to create a second IUPAC project to create materials to have, as he's saying, an in-person course. And what I would like to see into the future is that when green chemistry is introduced in chemistry courses, that the conversation also will expand from not harming to actually behaving in a responsible manner. So my vision in the future, and couldn't agree more with this comment, is that in every chemistry classroom where we are introducing chemistry to our students, and we of course introduce the 12 principles of green chemistry, we will also introduce responsible chemistry as a broader, more ambitious, but very much needed framework that every chemist should consider.
Thank you. Should we take another one from the audience, Angela?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me read. Another question is related to the green principle. It is recommended to use catalysis, fine, but what about catalysis with critical Rm extracted in such bad condition from countries we have no power to perform proper?
So everybody within the green chemistry community will respond probably in the same way. It's all about the life cycle analysis. So of course, replacing a non-catalyzed process by a catalyzed process is usually a good thing. You reduce the energy demand, probably you're going to produce less waste. But if you are creating more harm by introducing a very either toxic or scared catalyst, maybe you shouldn't do it. The way we approach green chemistry is never in a one-dimensional way. You need to consider the whole picture, and you're absolutely right. If by introducing the catalyst, you are really harming the environment of people more than you are doing by not doing it, of course you should not doing it. None of these single guiding principles should be seen in isolation. It's always a framework.
Okay, on the same topics almost, there is the question from Giuseppe Landella. Given the current major supply chain disruption in oil supply, what is, in your opinion, the landscape of opportunities available right now for chemist catalyst research to couple sustainability and impact reduction of the feedstocks? You almost already
Yeah, that's a tough question, but I would say that every tough question is always an opportunity. And if we look at the chemistry research nowadays, there are so many colleagues working on abundant earth, abundant elements. I want just to give you the example, and I got a Nobel Prize a few years ago, organocatalysis, not even using metals to catalyze our reactions. Bio-based solvents, for example, is another a big area of research. So yes, supply chain disruption is a major issue for our chemistry industry, and that's what I highlighted in this Angewandte Chemie editorial. But the way the community is responding is by reinventing a whole new chemistry, which is not dependent on these critical elements. Organocatalysis is a good example of that, but everything that we are now doing from biomass, producing our building blocks, not from petroleum, but actually from bio-waste is a good example of that. And if you just read the scientific journals, you will find many examples into that direction. So that resonates with what I was saying at the beginning of the webinar. Yes, it's going to be a monumental challenge, but it has never been a better time to be a chemist because we need to reinvent so many things that this is really catalyzing, if you wish, a new era of scientific discovery, and that's why there's so much and so high quality research in the chemistry field.
Can we go a little bit ahead with questions?
Yes, there is one
From
more.
France? No?
From France, yes.
Yeah. Okay. This is anonymous. Hello from France. I started to work on green chemistry in late 90. Nobody cares in the industry as they could relocal is as they could relocally in less regulated countries. Now I work on chemistry and product regulatory framework. For instance, PFAS, microplastic, and so it's very long, so I try to compact in key company and mostly political profile, which like simply impactful message, which are far away from operational reality, from science complexity. Still, they are and the new hard as they talk about cost. So it's very long, but the main, if I want to synthesize a little bit, of course, when we deal about ethical conduct, we talk about regulation. No, we had this. We talked about this in the parliament, and we have seen how difficult. No, because we have different countries with different regulation, and in the same countries we have different attitude, different from industry, different from people working in research, and are differently also seen from the community. It is clear that Europe, from this point of view, it can be a good laboratory because the regulation in Europe is at the moment the most large that we can find in any part of the world. But how can we deal with our regulation, what we can do in our laboratory, and what the policy tells to us, no? The regulatory, the rules, the economical problems, the political problems that very often are in contrast with our ethical attitude.
So that's a tough question, but it is an important one. The first thing I would say is that the relocation of part of the chemistry industry to avoid regulation is a shame because it has caused so much damage in other parts of the world. It's a really bad practice, really a responsible way of not dealing with green chemistry is, of course, relocating your plant to a less regulated environment. But now we are suffering the consequences of that. It's not only because Europe has been de-industrialized, but also because now with all these geopolitical problems, we realized the weak position in which we are because of the relocation of the chemical industry. in terms of regulation, but not only in terms of regulation of the chemical industry, but also regulation in terms of the job market, the very high cost of energy in Europe.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting here, because that's a very tough conversation, and again goes to the paper I just published. What I see here is the importance of having people with the technical knowledge, and EuChemS is doing a wonderful there, interacting with policymakers. So we are not regulating in a way that is harming the industry. And that happened very often, either because of ignorance, because of lack of interest, and bringing experts, actually volunteers, because I bet you went to Brussels on your own dime, so that you were not paid for that consultancy. You went there because you wanted to help. I think this policy advice is extremely important, bringing people with the knowledge and people with the capacity to actually regulate together is what we need. In the past, we have been over-regulating, no doubt, in Europe. And in top of the regulation, as I said, there are many other constraints, high energy prices, the disrupted supply chain, the fact that we have delocalized our industry. So we are in a very difficult position now, but at the same time, with this big transformation of the chemical industry, we have very good science. Many of the discoveries are being done here in Europe, and then that is an opportunity for the future because, as I said before, this big transformation will require new processes. Many of them are being discovered here in Europe, and we just need to make sure that those discoveries actually leave the lab and are implemented. And that's another big challenge we have in this case for the chemistry community, which is this culture of entrepreneurship and making sure that we translate scientific knowledge into economic value through the creation of new companies, licensing, partnerships. There are many, many ways to do technology transfer. It's a very broad question. I actually devoted quite a long time last year working on this article for Angevante Chemie because, yeah, Europe is in a very challenging situation in terms of its chemical industry.
Okay, I think that there are no more questions.
There is one more question from Jan Melich, which may be
Oh.
worth addressing.
Let me see. Well, I can see it. Can you read it?
Yes. What is your view on the EU's not significant harm principle that is communicated as a framework for making research and innovation decisions? Does that adequately capture the harms that chemists should avoid according to your do no harm claims? Do you see a way to translate that into concrete assessment methods for sustainable chemistry?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing I would say is that in terms of research and discovering new solutions, I think we should be free to explore every possibility, every chemistry. So not being constrained by how toxic or scary is any material. I think in terms of R&D, we should explore in a very open way and then being concerned about how we replace these toxic solutions or expensive solution, something which is a better solution. But there is two ways of answering, what it can be done. One, it is a framework, and actually I already working on a framework on responsibility readiness factor, because right now we're talking too much about technology readiness level, the TRLs, very famous, but to provide a framework, a tool to assess how responsible is a technology before it's scale up. But the answer I want to give you today is the following. I want to insist in responsible chemistry because it doesn't matter how much regulation, how much parameter, how many guiding principles we have. At the end of the day, it's your own conscience as a chemist, as an expert, to do things responsibly or not. So if you know that something is not good, that something is not going to help, that you are going to be putting the lives of people or the health of the environment at risk, is at the end it's an ethical decision. Should I be doing this or not? Because you can always go around regulation, you could always apply one set of guiding principles of another, but we as a professional, we should have our own ethical framework and asking yourself, is this something that I will feel proud of doing? Or this is something that I better don't do for the people and the planet? So that's why I think responsibility is a very good framework because it goes beyond regulation and really implies to you, person with the knowledge, the know-how, the details of what's being involved. And it's really up to us to decide what we want to be doing in the future.
Okay, if there is time, there is another interesting question for you. In in the context of sustainability, who is the more responsible? Academy, industry, public, or politician? Or it is the means self of people to change how we handle the environment?
Yeah, I mean, all these labels, all these silos is not is not useful. We have only one planet, and this idea of them against us, we are academia, they are industry, or those are the policymakers causing all those troubles, and we are them to fix them, or all these academics in their ivory towers. Uh, that should be something of the past. We have one planet, and I hope you sense you feel the sense of urgency that I feel. So we need everybody involved, and we need more alignment. So these guiding principles of responsible chemistry is really an invitation for everybody, from educators, entrepreneurs, academics, industry leaders, anybody involved in developing or using molecules uh, should be um, should be practicing chemistry in a responsible manner. I mean, because I've been answering a lot of questions, I don't have all the answers. That's the first thing I want to say. These are tough questions, very personal questions, and I hope I was clear during my presentation that nothing is written in stone, that it's at the end of the day a very personal conversation you should have with yourself. Is this the kind of thing I want to be doing or not? Doesn't matter how many documents or parameters we have. At the end, it's you with your own expertise if you want to do it. And again, I don't have all the answers. I'm happy to answer all the questions, but I hope people will see this as an invitation for a conversation. And in Antwerp during the 10th EuChemS Chemistry Congress, we will have many opportunities to engage in a real conversation.
Okay, are you ready for the last question?
Yeah, of
But
course, I'm ready.
this is quite, no.
Okay,
And
all of them are good.
it's related to artificial intelligence, of course.
I
And
was
the
expecting.
question is, do you think that using artificial intelligence will accelerate green chemistry to support responsible innovation? I would add, or not.
You see, that has a lot of levels. I do think AI, machine learning, will accelerate scientific discovery. And it's not that I believe it. We are seeing it already. Um, Thanks to AI, we are discovering new drugs, we are discovering new solutions, expanding our knowledge. But also, as like with any new tool, we could be using that in a very irresponsible manner. We also see how AI is being used in war. It's also being used in the chemical warfare. We know that United Nations and OPCW has been uh, telling us about these uses. So, like with any very powerful new tool, the level of responsibility it's even higher. That's kind of the paradox for humans, right? We keep growing our technological capacity, whereas our moral compass is pretty much the same. All the religions and philosophical uh, quotes from thousands of years ago keep telling us the same. Don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you. The golden rule. So we still operate under the same ethical framework, and we have our own weaknesses as humans. So it's a very dangerous business, and we are seeing that every time we are more powerful, we have powerful tools, and at the end of the day, we are humans that sometimes behave in a very stupid manner. An interesting question is how AI will respond to this behavior, because machines are learning not only from the data we gave them, but also by the way we behave. So it's going to be very interesting, and actually there are research on that to see how AI is responding to our own irresponsible way of dealing with environment. And of course, there is another whole dimension. Don't have time to go through all of these, but how AI is consuming resources. As a chemist, we have, of course, a big role to play in the hardware part of AI, new semiconductors, new materials. There is all the new field of quantum sciences now, quantum technologies, which is going to be critical. Chemistry has a big play to role. So yes, it's a very difficult question, but more importantly, what I'd say is like with any new tool, it's even more important that we will be responsible, because this can do a lot of good, but also a lot of evil.
Okay, I think that our time is almost done, if I'm not, no? So I will really thank Javier. This was quite interesting. I will like Ninetta and Catarina for helping to organize this very, very productive, I would say. And I would like to ask Javier, he has to last word for us. My last word would say that we are, of course, responsible for ourselves, for what we do in our laboratory and in our life. But as a teacher and as people who disseminate science, we have also the necessity to talk with people and to do something outside ourselves to bring more and more people to be convicted that the chemistry has to be used in a responsible way. Please, Javier.
Well, I would repeat something I already said. There has never been a better time to be a chemist. The challenge is huge. We will need to reinvent the whole chemistry enterprise to not be depending on crude oil, fossil fuels, and scarce elements. So it's a great opportunity for early career scientists. I'm sure that in the next decades, we are going to see wonders, many of them accelerated by AI. But this is also an invitation for the early career scientists to behave in a responsible manner. And I'm so happy that through this webinar, EuChemS and IUPAC are working together and putting responsible chemistry at the core of everything we do. Sometimes we just want to talk about our own research, which is great, and we think that these topics are marginal or just not that important. But I'm very pleased to see how, from the Hague Declaration to the Stockholm Declaration, the RRC, EuChemS, the American Chemical Society, so many institutions are now concerned and working around responsible chemistry. It's so urgent that the whole chemistry community is around this challenge, and I'm delighted that we had this webinar, and extremely grateful to EuChemS for this.
Thank you very much.
Grazie mille.
We will continue in Antwerp this discussion, and through the magazines and all the social media of EuChemS and IUPAC to follow, of course, these relevant topics. Thank you very much, and goodbye.